Yossarian, a lead bombardier who had decided to live forever or die in the attempt. And his only mission each time he went up was to come down alive. To die or not to die, that was the question. And Clevenger grew limp trying to answer it. History did not demand Yossarian's premature demise. Justice could be satisfied without it. Progress did not hinge upon it. Victory did not depend upon it. That men would die was a matter of necessity. Which men would die, though, was a matter of circumstance. And Yossarian was willing to be the victim of anything but circumstance. But that was war.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Well, Danny boy, and place to place the alcohol and from glen to glen, went down the mountainside. Last summer's gone, when all the roses are falling. Dead you must go, this you must go, but I must buy.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan, and in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Danny B Movies, where I introduce a guest and or myself to a cult movie. And it is finally, after months and months of demand, we have finally, well, years really, because we did plan this the previous year, so even longer. We have finally hit World War II month, and we're starting off with a banger. We are starting off with the 1970 adaptation of Catch-22. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different this month. It's not going to be a laugh a minute. Of a series of podcasts, these, because obviously World War II is quite serious, and we're going to take it in a very kind of serious way. We're going to respect it and the people and the history. And I brought Andy on board, Angry Andy. He's going to be in every single podcast for this month as a historical consultant and a military expert, if you will. So, Andy, I'm glad you're coming on this journey with me. How are you today?
I'm very good. I don't know what to say about being an expert. I'm very happy to be here, as I always am. Obviously, you know that World War II era movies, documentaries is something of a passion of mine, among other things. But yeah, what a month is going to be. Some hard stuff, but then some enjoyable stuff as well.
Yeah, it's very important, and everything is somewhat based on fact as well. There's every single thing, even if it's just an event, a circumstance, anything. There is some truth. Even Catch-22 is based on somewhat on Joseph Haller's own life and own experience as a bombardier during World War II. So every single one of these things, even though they are fiction, have some, or a version of the story, or there's going to be some creative license with some of these things, but there are somewhat based in fact, and every introduction is going to be some form of documentary kind of voiceover and narration, just to give us a feel for that historical significance. And we have brought an expert as well, yet again, another expert, to talk about this novel, this man, this author, and this film all in one. And who else could it be than another author, Tony Farina?
Oh, hello, lads. Thank you. This is my first time face-to-face with Andy. What listeners didn't know is 5 minutes before we just had to stare at each other just because we were like, are you real? None of that is true. But this is
It was like that bit when in episode 1 when the door opened and Darth Maul's just there and they kind of stare at each other and say, "It's you!
It's you! This is it!" So it's finally, I've heard his voice for years and years, and he mine, and so here we are. I've always known he was real. He wasn't just a figment of Dan's imagination, and now... No. So thank you for having me here.
It's not just one of my many personalities speaking.
Right, that's true. So I appreciate this. When you put this out, and again, this has been a long time coming. I know You two have spoken about it on the show and in the Discord and everything. And I know this is something. So when you first said, Dan, when you were like, oh, Catch-22, I was like, well, I don't care when it is. Just sign me up. Because but I read the book in high school and it changed what I knew you could do about war stories and what you could do about fiction writing all at once. And I've always loved satire. And I'm, and again, I know it's like we will have a rollicking good time as we discuss this, but as you mentioned, Dan, so like part of the thing for me, and I'll just start with this, is that so my sister and I have different dads, and her dad was actually killed in war. He was killed in Vietnam. And so in my house, we didn't watch war movies unless they were like absurdist ones like Rambo, like that stuff, like all of the bad 80s action movies that I loved, everything that Canon Productions made, I watched, like, because that's not real, like that's not a real thing. All of the missing in action, Chuck Norris, that's all garbage. But like the ones, like the real ones you like, I've never seen Saving Private Ryan. I've never seen Born on the 4th of July. I've never seen the one that was based on Heart of Darkness, the Vietnam one.
Apocalypse Now.
Now.
Yeah.
The Red Heart of Darkness. So I've always walked in like a tentative line. I always felt like, well, books are a little bit different. And then when I read this, I was like, oh, I can watch this one. I understand what it's doing, so it's like, so that's just kind of where I always approach. So like I have this different view of war things. I've read tons of books about Vietnam or about World War II and World War I, and I've watched, like again, the like janky bad action movies, which I think are, ridiculous, good fun. But so anyway, so that's where I came from. So it was really like revelatory as a young person to read this and be like, oh, because, it was such a big, serious thing. Obviously, my dad enlisted at the beginning of Vietnam, and they didn't send him there. He enlisted in the Navy, and they sent him to Morocco to land planes. That was his part of the war effort. That was like a gassing station, a layover station when they were moving planes and stuff over. So it was just like a weird situation. So it was just, war was a big deal in our house in that way. But so anyway, so that's why this was such an important book to me. It's like, oh, it can be okay to talk about it in a light way. You can talk about the absurdity of it while also acknowledging, as you did, the seriousness of it. And I know, Andy, as you are a big historian, I know that's part of it, right? Is like you're looking at it. It's not like you're not looking at it. It's like war's awesome. When people hear you're a historian, like you are interested in that stuff. Yeah, you're not like. Gun ho.
It's interesting. There's a bit of a parallel between you and me. Then my father was in the military, served as a Royal Signal, sort of like communications engineer, and he went to numerous places. Especially all the major conflicts of the last sort of 20 odd years, and obviously war movies. They factored into his sort of viewing. I don't think he ever enjoyed them probably as much as I did, but again, for me, it was never the gratuitous. Look at all the the explosions, all the death and all that. It was literally sort of like, oh, what is the history behind this? So when I watched Black Hawk Down, for example, what I immediately did after that was get the book off Amazon, and then I got the Surviving Pilots book and looked into sort of like how they what their experiences were of it, how it correlates to what we see on film. Obviously, the film itself is very video gamey, even though it is made by Ridley Scott. It's a very video gamey kind of film, but it's always been interesting for me looking at sort of like the wider history, even with films like Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List. It's just delving deeper into what we see on film. Where that correlates with what's true, what's been added on to make it a bit more, cinematic. And it's the same with this film as well. I didn't really know anything about it too much, to be fair. I don't know anything about the book, but I'm intrigued to go ahead and read the book because obviously, like you said, the satire in this film is absolutely superb. I think it works really well, and it's something I didn't expect for a World War II movie to have such satire going for it.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was a book. I didn't even know it was a book. I didn't even know it was a film. I knew it from the regular kind of parlance that it's now, and that's very Shakespearean, that an author's work can just become part of language. Like
I didn't even know that, to be fair, either. I was shocked.
Yeah,
I had some kind of feeling like, but it was, I think when we initially announced what we were looking at, I sort of went, Catch-22, I'll type it in, and it came up, oh, bloody hell, he literally created this phrase.
But it's
maddening. It's very, basically, it's a very modern creation. It's modern literature creation, isn't it? The phrase Catch-22.
And like, for people who don't know what a Catch-22 situation is, a Catch-22 situation, for an example, would be, hey, I want a job. Oh, you don't have enough experience. But if I get the job, I'll have experience. Oh, well, that's a Catch-22. You know, that's kind of a very simple example. And that's where this kind of absurd logic or irrational logic comes from. It comes from this book, and every situation that you know, Yossarian, who's the main character, gets involved in, and you know, he goes, they go, oh, well, that's another Catch-22. That's Catch-22. You can't do this. You can do this, but you can't do it because of this, basically. Before we get into the film too much, I'm going to defer to Tony because he's read the novel. It's, you know, quite a celebrated novel. It's also got its detractors as well. You know, it's quite, you know, some people say it's the best bit of literature ever made, and you know, it's in the top 10 books, you know, ever written. It's been banned, so it could go on Tanya's banned books list if she ever wanted to do it.
Banned?
Yeah, it was banned at one point. By the
what was it banned for? We might be jumping ahead here, but I find that really baffling, just based off watching the film.
Yeah, I think it was probably anti-war sentiment.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah,
okay. Right. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
When it came out,
God,
Vietnam,
no anti-war.
Yeah, it came out in 1961.
Yeah.
And so in the teeth of, like, when you're looking at, like, and especially, you know, Nixon was president, remember, then during the teeth of Vietnam. And so he was definitely keen on not having anybody make fun of him ever. So, you know, he opened the file on John Lennon. He was a paranoid dude. And then we learned why he was so fucking paranoid. Maybe if you weren't such a deceptive asshole, you wouldn't need to be so paranoid. But so it was definitely very anti-war. It's considered, you know, and of course, anytime anything is considered anti-American, then there's the conversation, or anti-war. That means you're anti-American, which of course, that's not this. But then you're like, oh, if you're anti-American, then you're communist, and it's like the weirdest slippery slope. It's like you're living inside this book. Like, if you just read this book, you'd know why banning this book is the dumbest thing you could do, because you're just self-fulfilling. So yeah, it is really a hard read. I hear what you're saying, Dan. All of that stuff is true. The detractors are, I am a person who believes this book is a pain in the ass. But I also love it because it's timey-wimey. And that's one thing as we get to it, Nichols does very well. Nichols captures that. Buck Henry wrote the screenplay. Buck Henry, who's in it. Buck Henry, who wrote The Graduate. Buck Henry, who wrote Get Smart, the TV show. Like, Buck Henry, like, if you see Buck Henry's name on something, you know, like, that's probably gonna be pretty damn good. That guy was one hell.
And Mike Nichols, like, he directed The Graduate, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Closer, Carnal Knowledge, and even The Day of the Dolphin, which is a film where George C. Scott teaches a dolphin, and it's kidnapped by terrorists and used to try and kill the president. The Day of the Dolphin.
The Manchurian Dolphin is what they were going to name it, but then they called it The Day of the Dolphin instead. Wow.
I may well cover it in a future podcast if there's enough. If there's enough,
son of a bitch, I'm in.
There we go. We got it. I've sold it. I've sold Andy on it.
That's amazing. I didn't know that existed. But yeah, so Day of the Dolphin notwithstanding. But this film, I do think, captures a lot of the crazy dreamlike quality of it. But yeah, it jumps out in and out of time. You don't necessarily ever know what's going on. It's written in a very confusing way. Intentionally, it makes fun of itself. It makes fun of war. It makes fun of the heroes of it are always the people, though, but they're all incredibly flawed, and nobody's a hero. Everybody's an asshole, and they're all backed into corners, and they're doing their best. That's what and some of them are doing their worst. Like, there's some characters, the one that you meet, Milo, he is doing the worst, but he's also...
There's also characters that do even worse than him as well.
100%. Yeah, Arfi. And again, what a weird casting too for Charles Grodin too. I mean, just some of the casting in this film is great. But so the book is
superb.
It really is. The only problem is, and I'll just say this because you guys haven't read the book, Major the entire time, every time, everybody thinks he looks like Henry Fonda. And so that is the running gag through the book, to the point where early in his like young major, people think he's Henry Fonda. And then people are mean to him. They're like, what's Henry Fonda doing here? Why is he playing war? And he's like, that's not Henry Fonda, that's Major. And so it was just funny that they picked Bob Newhart because it's like, young Henry Fonda, you know what I mean? Like, he was a ruggedly handsome dude. And Bob Newhart.
The complete opposite.
Right. So I found that to be pretty fun too. But it is an absurdist book. You do learn a lot more of the background of all of the characters. Like, Milo's a mayor, like in like four different countries. He's a mayor in like several cities in 4 different countries. So there's a lot more background there. You meet Dr. Nika's wife and all this other stuff. But so I get some of the cuts that had to be made. But I do think it's a challenging read. It's one of those ones like when you're done, you were like, okay, good, I did that. Like, I can sit with it, and it rewards you for your patience. But I also understand why some people get to like page 7 and are like, fuck this, and throw it across the room too. I would never say you have to grind your way through it, but I am someone who, just read War and Peace and ground through Les Mis recently and reread the Lord of the Rings trilogy a couple of years back. It's like, so I'm here, and I'm like a defender of Tom Bombadil, and it was like, oh, Tom Bombadil, there was like 150 pages of Tom Bombadil singing. I'm like, I'm here for that. So I love a good plotting novel, and this plods for sure. So that is my brief synopsis of the book. There's a couple of characters that are missing. There's a general called General Scheisskopf, which is a brilliant name. So at least twice they say, what's that shithead want, which is delightful. And then there's a character called Ex-Private First Class Wintergreen. He's cut from this film completely, and he runs the mailroom in Germany, and he is running the entire war. And he doesn't even have a rank. And so because he controls the mail, he controls the information. And so he and Milo hate each other because they're both, doing awful shit. So those 2 characters are pretty big characters that were cut from the film. And I understand why, because to explain Scheisskopf and Wintergreen, you'd need 2 more hours. So I don't think it hurts the film, but they definitely add an extra layer. Scheisskopf's favorite thing is to have them do parades.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and you're from Germany, right, Andy? So as soon as I said Scheisskopf, you started laughing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Immediately.
I'm not from Germany, Tony, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I know that much German from high school. I know that much.
I'm pretty sure I called you here a couple of times as well.
So anyway, that's my little love letter to the book, and like we could talk a little bit more as we go through it, any of the changes, but like, it's pretty brutal. Nately's horror is called Nately's Horror. That's her name.
Yeah.
And so there's some, and in the Clooney version, they tried to soften that, but then they made the scene with Arfie's, that scene more graphic. And like in the book and in this movie, it's just as graphic enough. And it's like, we leave everything to the imagination, but Clooney like decided to spend a lot of time on that scene. I'm like, okay, that's deliberately cut for a reason. So, yeah, I just love it. It's one of those things that I just was a revelation to me, and so much so that, when I was in college, I wrote a short story that I wrote my like love letter to Joseph Heller, where I wrote a short story that was timey-wimey with no transitions. So it was like a conversation started here, and then it ended here, and like this person would say a thing, and then the answer was over here. Like, and you had to, as a reader, it probably was unsuccessful, but it was my attempt at this, because it was like, if Joseph Heller can do it, I can do it. And it turns out I cannot, but I tried.
But it's because it's not you, Tony. It's not your way of writing. It's
not at all. Yeah.
Like from what I've read about his creative process, he would, he'd think up a sentence and go, right, I'm going to write a book about that. And then he would go back and write 2 paragraphs a day, and then go back and rework them and rework them and rework them. And then it would take him usually like 7, 8, 9 years to get a book out, because he was so specific. And often he didn't even know what the through line or the themes of the book were until they were kind of finished. From what I've read, it's all very Quentin Tarantino, non-linear. So it sounds like, but the way it's written sounds like it just strengthens the ideas that he's getting at, the kind of the absurdity, the surrealness, the bizarre bureaucracy that's ongoing, and all those kind of things that it's not war is hell, it's war is fucking bizarre.
Insane.
Yeah, it's just
insanity.
insane.
Insanity is like the basic undercurrent of everything, isn't it? In the film, pure insanity. And you see you see varying levels of insanity. One of my favorite bits from this film is just when, forgive me, I'm still trying to process who all the characters are. I think it's the Colonel. He's in the car with John Voight, and you see that plane coming in for a crash landing. They don't even notice it, and then it does crash, and they still don't notice it. They even park up right next to it and don't pay it any attention whatsoever. But they're at that point. Those characters are clearly at that point in their military careers that they've been there that long enough that they're completely softened to every kind of disaster or issue that's going on in the war. They don't even care about it. They're focusing on their own tiny world and trying to make that perfect just to distract themselves from whatever else is going on. And I love it. It's why I think, because like I said, I didn't know much about this film. I didn't know anything about this film, to be fair. So when the satire starts pouring through, and you get these little flecks of fucking hell, there's a plane on fire. They're all dead in that plane, and nothing, no emotion, no. They don't even acknowledge it. It's perfect. It's like the complete opposite to seeing loads of soldiers getting slaughtered on the battlefield. It's the complete opposite, but it still gives you the same reaction of shock and awe. It's like, well, they're so far gone. They don't even see it anymore. It's brilliant. There are loads of little things like that in the film as well. Like you were saying, Tony, about the dreamlike qualities that filter in. Well, that's obviously, well, to me, it was sort of like playing out as like, well, these people are so lost in the craziness of war that everything is muddled and dreamlike. They're just drifting through, waiting, to reach 70 flights, 75 flights. Now it's 80. Well, they just drift through. They've become numb to everything. And you get that with all these characters in different ways. It's really, really good film. And I am going to read the book because I want to see how that sort of quality filters in and what sort of greater impact there is in with other characters like the ones you say that are not in the film. How does the insanity work with them? If there's some guy working in the post room practically running the war, that's a heavy burden. I want to read that and see how that filters in to the rest of the characters. Really, really good. I really enjoyed this film. And Alan Arkin is just fucking brilliant, isn't he?
So good.
Let's just put it. Such a great performance, and really understated performance.
And this won't be the last appearance of Alan Arkin in World War II month either. No, as he will make an appearance in one of the other podcasts. But fantastic, just phenomenal. Like just every scene is just, there's so many levels to it in his performance, and it's like, is he crazy? Is he not crazy? There's almost a kind of a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of thing going on as well, because it's like, is he crazy? He's pretending to be crazy. What kind of crazy is he? And then it doesn't matter what kind of crazy he is because he's not going home. So what can he do?
Yeah.
And that's when he's stark naked, walking around and saluting to generals. And then the general doesn't care. He's like, why is he not wearing any clothes? Doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Okay. You're a strange individual. Yes, I am. Thank you. I'll have the medal now for no reason.
It's one thing as well, like obviously without having any context of the book or, I didn't really want to read too much up on it online either. I wanted to sort of experience the film. So when the film's playing out, there were little elements factoring in. I was like, are these pilots all dead already? Are they in some like weird sort of purgatory? The runs they have to do. It used to be when you've done 50 runs, you can go home. Now it's 80. That's a form of hell. They're stuck in a hell that they can't escape on this fucking tiny bollocks island where they're all flying off to bomb villages that they don't know the names of, that they haven't got a clue why they're bombing. It's just a weird sort of like cycle where they're just stuck in it, aren't they? And the more I was seeing in the film and like some of the imagery towards the end of the film as well, I was just like, this is like a living hell. It's really well sort of put together for like somebody who hasn't read the book. You can just sort of look at it from that perspective. They're living in their own personal hells and they can't get out. They never will get out. The only way they can get out is to dive deeper into the hell, which some of them obviously do.
I love that. I think that is a really, because the island is a fake. Like at the beginning of the book too, and I don't remember if it's the beginning of the movie where they acknowledge that the name of this island isn't real. Like that's the one thing that's not real. But then it's like, so you deal with the fact that it is this weird Mediterranean island.
Yeah.
It's somewhere near Italy because that's where they get to go when they're on vacation, but it's also close enough. You don't know how far in the Mediterranean it is for there to be all these facilities because they obviously get to Africa quite often. They're like literally in the middle of the war. They're in the middle of the Med, in the middle of the war. And it is amazing. I love that you didn't you just came to it and this was just like an experience for you. That must have been so cool because like if you don't know what it is and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Fuck. And were you like cursing Dan's name at that point in time? Or you're like, or were you just because you obviously enjoyed it, or were you just like because Arkin is so good? And it is shocking to me after seeing this performance. Alan Arkin's son thought, I'll try to be an actor too after my dad did this. Like, I'm sorry. If my dad did this role, I'd be like, I'm gonna go be a dentist because there's no way I want to be in the same room, in the same profession with him because he did that. And they look a lot alike too, right? Adam and Alan do. But it's just an exceptional performance. I'm with you. So like, were you with it right away, or was it like, was it a slow burn for you before you knew what the fuck was going on?
I think I was with it. Obviously, the initial sort of sequence is you can't really hear what's going on as well. I thought, oh god, there's something wrong with my audio. I can't hear the conversation, but it's playing that perfectly. So you don't know what the hell's going on. It's all to do with the timey-wimey back and forth. And then immediately he gets knifed, and I was like, what the hell's going on? What is this? So there was like a bit of sort of like, oh god, I feel like I've jumped into the film halfway through. Even especially after that, there's really long opening credits where you're just watching the sunrise, and I was like, oh god, okay.
I had a similar experience when I watched Alien, and I was like, because obviously in space no one can hear you scream. The whole opening is basically silent, and in this, obviously, it's very quiet. And then I had the windows open. It's it's summer here, so I was like, oh, that dog's outside. That dog's making noise outside. So I kept turning up the volume, and I'm like, no, this is what they want me to do. This is what they're trying to get me to do. And then when that big, amazing scene, apparently it took quite a long to choreograph all those planes going off. Because the second they were like, cut, they had to get all the planes back down and film it again. So it must have been a nightmare.
All original B-25s. There's 25 of them flying off, right? Get them back.
That sound,
how much did that
they were
cost?
obviously... I wonder how much of that was ADR and how much of that was just we're just going to record, because it feels, I'm with you, it's like feels like you're there, like and it's shaky. I could not imagine. I mean, I was -3 when this came out, but I cannot imagine seeing this in the theater. What that because like what Christopher Nolan's always trying to do with his bullshit sound design. Like I feel like he obviously saw this and was like, hey, Mike Nichols can do it. Yeah, but Mike Nichols stops doing it after a while, and then you could hear what everybody's fucking saying later. It doesn't keep that up the whole time, but like it must have been. Could you imagine?
That is a valid criticism, Tony. I am with you on that one.
So
I can't wait for Oppenheimer.
So you could be like, I'm going to need to go. I'm not even going to try to see that in the theater. I need it at home with the captions on. So I can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered.
Can you imagine what the sound's going to be like when that fucking bomb goes off as well? Didn't they do it? Didn't they do it for real as well? Didn't they?
They create. It was like some kind of fuel air bomb that simulated it, I think.
Okay. Fair enough.
Wow. To this sound design, though, the one that works, it is so. I just imagine what it would have been like to see it in the theater and be like, "What the fuck is going on?" Am I like you? And so I just think it is such a great way to start it. And I had forgotten. I hadn't watched the movie in years, so when I rewatched it and it started like that, I was like, "Oh right, I forgot." Like, you magnificent bastards! Well done, well done.
But that's it. That's again the idea that they're presenting is just that everything's just fucking white noise. That the whole war is just white noise, and you're alone in it, and you can't get out of it. You can't escape that the frustration and the annoyance and the bullshittery and the bureaucracy and all of this. Just fucking, you just want to be free. You're only as free as we allow you to be. You can't fuck off to Sweden. It's not, you can't do that. You're failing your country. You're un-American, all that. And I've experienced in my life, I think everyone has, because it's just inherent to, jobs or, if you're in the army or in the Navy. My granddad was in the Navy. It's a huge, just a lot of that kind of bullshit bureaucracy that you're constantly fighting against and trying to fucking do your job. You want to do your job most of the time. And even the people that don't want to do their job, they still have to put up with the bureaucracy. The people who want to leave and quit probably have to, put up with that sort of shit. So that is what I really kind of hooked me in, because I'm like, yeah, fuck you and your all this bullshit. And again, it's like, and the general as well, played by Orson. Like, let's talk about the cast. The cast is incredible.
Wow,
brilliant cast, brilliant.
Just Alan Arkin, Orson Welles, Anthony Perkins, John Voight, Art Garfunkel. Okay,
yeah, Art Garfunkel,
Martin Sheen,
Mike Sheen, yeah,
Grodin.
Speaking of Apocalypse Now, Charles Grodin. Right. Paula Prentice is in it very briefly as well. Just an incredible Bob Balaban and
Bob Newhart.
And Bob Newhart, yeah. And they're all fantastic in their own roles, and as small as they are. And again, you get a sense, it's not like they're playing archetypes or anything. You get a sense of who they are, as how much screen time they have, or what they're saying. Like the Bob Newhart scene is just wonderful. Major, and all that. Just that whole sequence, I just love that. And again,
which the one in the hut.
Yeah, the one in the hut where he's like, if I'm in here, I can't be seen. But if
that is an incredible scene, an incredible comedy scene. It's completely theatrical in its design and its construct and performance. I absolutely fucking love when he's trying to escape and he's walking back and forth and he puts the mustache on. The picture in the background changes to show like we're all the fucking same in this war. Everyone's fucking just as daft and insane. It's all ludicrous. I absolutely love it. I've rewound it. I think I've rewound it 3 times just to see how many times the picture changes, because it goes from oh god, what was the president?
I think it was oh god, what's his name?
I can't remember president. Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Goes from Eisenhower to Churchill and then to Stalin. It was Stalin, because I don't know what it is about Stalin. I don't know what it is, but it just cracks me up. It cracked me up because I was like, oh, the fucking Stalin. that's weird. And then I played it back, and just watching all this physicality is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it's snappy as well. The dialogue is so inch perfectly snappy. There's not a moment spared. There's not a feeling, an inflection spared. It's all pinpoint accurate to what it's trying to get across. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And the editing too. This is the thing too.
Yeah,
the book is like the book is this. Like that scene with Major and the sergeant is almost word for word from the thing. And it does make sense that you have Bob Newhart instead of Henry Fonda, because Bob Newhart is a comedy genius. His deadpan comedy, what he does is something very few people do. Like people still today are trying to do shit that Bob Newhart used to do, like live on stage, the conversations he used to have with himself on the phone. So I get why you cast him here, but because the writing, everything you just said, Andy, is so true. I mean, editors for the win, because you have to cut it. I mean, people always say comedy is in the edit. This script is so Buck Henry understood. He knew what to cut, he knew what to keep, he knew what to change just a little to make it work for film. But then whoever did cut this was a genius.
Yeah,
because just like that, what you're talking about, like blink and you miss it, and that's part of the performance that they're giving. But the editing, the different scenes together, editing the change, like you're walking and now it's a different day, you're in a different place, like Tarion's walking and he's on the island and now he's in Rome and now he's wherever, and it's insane. And like the dead thing that you mentioned, like that edit, like the recurring scene with Snowden, where he's like, help the bombardier, I'm the bombardier, help him. The way it's shot, and this is again in the editing, it's obviously the cinematographer too, but like you look like Yossarian's nowhere.
Yeah.
And then when it cuts, you realize, oh, that's a cloud behind him. They're in the sky. But the way that it's shot is so it's again, I mean, 1970s, this is all on film. And like you said, they had to, there's just something magical about the way that this all came together. Because these are all, I mean, not everybody was a huge big name at the time, but any of them could have starred in their own movie. I mean, they were. I mean, Anthony Perkins had already done Psycho.
Well, I mean, the colonel's also in Psycho. He's the inspector in Psycho.
Right.
Look, the guy who falls down the stairs. All that. And also, like, I read that you can tell me this, Tony, that the novel is quite Kafkaesque. And it has a lot of similarities to Kafka's The Trial.
Yes.
Which was adapted and starred Orson Welles and Anthony Perkins.
Didn't know that. I've never seen that. Oh my God.
I think it's like 1962, I want to say.
Oh,
I think
I love The Trial.
Well, there you go. There you go. Now you know. So it makes kind of, in a weird kind of backwards kind of sense, it all kind of comes full circle.
Well, Orson Welles wanted to buy this, didn't he? He wanted to buy the rights to this film.
Well, it was
really?
the rights were bought, I think, for $150,000 in, I think it was the year after or the year of release of the novel.
Yeah.
And IMDb is just full of like, this person was going to direct and this person was going to direct and this person was going to be cast and this person was going to be cast. It's just a whole litany of that. So it took a very long time. And it apparently took Mike Nichols and, God, what was his name? The writer again, Tony?
Buck Henry. He plays Colonel Korn in this.
He does.
Yeah,
and
which is a great name, by the way. Yeah.
It took them about 2 years, apparently, to adapt the novel. And from the sounds of it, it was not an easy job. And yeah, so it went on and on and on and on, and eventually, finally got made. And this is what we have. But I think it's the marriage of all of these things and all of these happenings that got this done. But as big as a smash the novel made, as huge an impact it's had, the film was considered a bomb.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, bombardiers,
bombers bombing bombs,
bombardiers bombing.
Is it because it was? My guess is right. This is obviously the movie. The thing is about what it is. Like if we think about Iron Man, when they made Iron Man, it was a commentary on Vietnam. When they remake Iron Man, when they make the movie Iron Man, it's a commentary on the state of the wars the endless wars Americans are in, Afghanistan, Iraq, everything else. So. Again, this was a commentary on World War II, but it was made, the book came out after World War II and after the Korean War was over. So it came in a relatively, air quote, I do air quotes, peaceful time, even though we know there's never a peaceful time. We were already in Vietnam at this point in time. Kennedy was sending troops and whatever, but it wasn't a thing yet. So, but then by the time the movie comes out, you're in the teeth of that. And so there is this is a World War II book that is clearly about Vietnam now. Right.
Absolutely.
And that's my feeling.
Yeah, I think people were just tired and jaded with.
We also had
war, weren't they? So
that year as well.
Why go and watch a war movie when it's been all over your TV sets? And
you say that, Andy. You say that, Andy. But two films came out that year. One was MASH.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
And the other one was Patton with George C. Scott from Day of the Dolphin.
Yeah.
Which coming soon
whenever that may be.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. It's the big tangled Spider-Dan web. So those films were popular. Obviously, I think Patton is a bit more rah-rah, I believe. And
it's more pro, isn't it? Like,
yes.
All the way. He stands in front of that big giant flag, George Scott. Oh,
yeah. Very jingo.
My nan had it on VHS, and I remember the front cover just being him just stood there like chest out.
He was a giant penis standing in front of a flag. That's what that cover is.
That's what the front cover was.
Yeah, they know it is.
Yeah, the VHS. Yeah. Obviously,
giant erect
MASH, isn't it?
Yeah,
I also think it was $15 million was the budget, so I don't know if that's quite a lot of money at the time for what they were trying to attempt. Maybe it could have been done for less, but who knows? However, it was still the 8th most popular film of 1970.
Really?
So
was that a dry year?
So dry as that airstrip, Andy.
As dry as that landing strip.
Yeah.
God damn.
Well, let me ask you guys this. I was like, okay, I always, whenever I'm on a call and we're talking about world history with people who aren't Americans.
Sure.
Obviously, you guys are from the country that kept Hitler at bay for as long as you could until the Americans decided to get off their ass. Sorry. So when you see a movie like this or you read a book like this, I mean, I'm just calling it like see it. I mean, that's just facts, But because if we had gotten involved sooner, it's a different, it chaps my ass. It's what it is. History's history. But we didn't. And so how do you guys feel when this is an American point of view, an American story of these really exhausted American soldiers who've only been in the war for like half a minute? And you guys weren't alive, but you guys have been getting the fuck shit bombed out of you. Kids are running away to Narnia. Everything's crazy. Everything's going on. And like kind of single-handedly, England is trying to hold shit together. What is your take on that? Like, goddamn Americans, or you're like, I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I don't think I've ever really thought of it like that, but it's an interesting point. Yeah, literally only been in the war a couple of months and already shell-shocked and jaded. Yeah,
I guess that's always the American, again, the jingoistic idea of we saved your asses in World War II, all that sort of stuff. I've never really considered it. I'm like, no, surely it was a world war. We're all good. We're part of the Allies, not the Axis.
Yeah. Thanks for nuking them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Japan didn't really appreciate that.
They did not. No, not at all.
But hey,
Oppenheimer.
We'll get. It's all connected. We'll get to understand exactly why in Oppenheimer. I'm sure. 2 hours and 45 minutes of connect this wire. Well, be careful. We don't know if it's going to destroy the universe. Piss
Atom
off,
smasher.
You've gone too far, Christopher Nolan. Yeah. You should have reined it in when you did bloody Dunkirk.
How do we make
nonsense?
How do we make the films as confusing for our audience as possible while not alienating our audience? Yeah. Chris Nolan.
Dunkirk. The stories of 3 different things, all at the same time. So we're going to show you one thing, then go back, show it again from a different perspective, and then go back again and show it again. Oh,
that was his dry run for Tenet, though.
Yeah, definitely.
God, Tenet.
Yeah.
Dry run.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Tenet.
We're going backwards in time, but are we? Yeah. No, it's irradiated. But why? Oh no, yes. Oh, the bullet goes back into the gun. Oh, we're running backwards. Anyway.
Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, we're going off. We're getting off track.
I was just curious because I don't know. I just as an American who, I'll admit I'm glad I was born in America and not say Afghanistan, or like I know how lucky I am. Yeah, like sure. I am a fluke of birth. That's where we all are. You know what I mean? Like my grandparents made choices, and so here I am. Fine, awesome, great. So because I'm not a person who's like, because I'm American, I'm better. I'm like, because I'm American, I'm lucky. Yeah. So, and there's a privilege and everything. And so I think I feel like the book and even the film is commenting on that, like on the Americanism and on the bullshit and on the bureaucracy and all this other thing and like the pointlessness of war, but also we need to be there. And it's like, we do need to be there. Like America needed to join the war. It was the right thing to do. And I don't think at any point in time, this film or the book or anything is commenting and saying like, joining World War II was a bad idea. It's just saying like the way that it was done poorly. And the fact that it was like, there is a commentary, I think, about the bureaucracy of why it took us so long to fucking go in there in the first place. And the way we dragged our asses and we applied Catch-22. Well, if we do this is going to happen. But if we don't do this is going to happen. If we don't do that, and like all the bullshit. And again, it's just like interesting to me because we, all of our history is jingoistic too, so.
Yeah. I mean, like we were saying, like even if we were involved in the war, England's not squeaky clean either. We're not, the squeaky clean country. Like neither is America. Neither probably is most of these, superpowers or former superpowers. I'm not sure where we land on the superpowers at the moment, but if we have any, do we have any superpowers?
Any superpower we've got is rising the food prices.
Economic decline. That's our superpower.
I'd get the jaded aspect. I get the jaded aspect when looking at sort of Vietnam related stuff, because I think that was just like a case of like what on earth are we doing here? Obviously, the UK didn't help in that one, so we left you guys to deal with that on your own.
Maybe it's a bit like COVID. When COVID happened, all these films about COVID came out. Like, I think one was called Hummingbird, or there's some other ones.
It came out like a couple of months after.
Yeah, like literally, they were like, right, let's, and someone released I think it was probably like Asylum or something. They were like, we've got a zombie movie. Let's call it COVID Zombies. Corona.
That checks
zombies.
out like them. That's something they would do.
That sounds like Asylum to me. And obviously, and instead of people going, oh yeah, I will say I was watching a lot of kind of infection and viral kind of movies at the time, like Harriers and stuff. But that's me. That's
28
just me.
days later.
I'm not profiting on money, that's going to, people and, commenting and taking money from people that are like dying and going, oh, what's this like? I'm not in that position where I could do that, and I don't want to do that. But, there was a real kind of, I don't want to fucking hear about COVID anymore. I'm dealing with it. My relatives have died, or they're suffering, or I can't see them. I don't want to fucking know about it. It's all I hear about all day, every day. Why would I watch entertainment based on that? Why would I do that? So maybe it was something like that. Maybe that's why people didn't turn up. Who knows? But again, very popular. I think both the film is divisive and both the novel is very divisive. Here's an interesting thing as well. Joseph Heller doesn't consider this book, the novel, an anti-war novel.
Wow.
It's just realistic, isn't it?
And is it
just more realistic than
he said that it was more the kind of the people at the time, the kind of I believe it was that would be the baby boomers, I think, at the time. I think they cottoned on to the anti-war kind of message, or found the anti-war message, and that's what they kind of said. Look, it's anti-war. This is anti-war. This is anti-war. And it's maybe, and he was like, no, it's more the scenario or the character's problem or this specific issue. You could place it anywhere else. You could place it in a factory or a different war or something like that. But I think he was saying that the people he knew were noble and were there, and they knew they were there for a reason, but it was just the absurdity of all the other shit that was going on, and the absurdity of life in general as well. But he himself has said it is not an anti-war novel, which I found quite interesting.
It's painting the harsh realities of what actually happened, as opposed to it being anti-war. There's a difference between anti-war and showing the audience, some level of reality in the situation. That's what it is. And when people can't deal with the harsh reality of a situation, they immediately jump on the defensive. Oh, he's doing this, he's saying that, he's against us, he's saying this. Well, no, I'm actually just trying to show you what is actually, truthful in this message about the people's experiences. I'm not saying it's false or it's a lie. I'm not saying it's anti this, anti that. It's the harsh reality.
I guess it's the same with any text, isn't it? Be religious, fictional, factual. It's going to be interpreted in so many different ways, or misinterpreted in so many different ways. He was just telling a good story out of some of the experiences and some of the absurdity that he experienced during the war. But everyone's gone, oh, well, it's anti-Vietnam and it's this, and I have this opinion on this, and I have this opinion on this. But actually, and obviously art doesn't belong to the writer necessarily. Once it's out in the public, it will take on its own life and things. So, people make of it what they will. But he himself fundamentally said it is not an anti-war novel.
Well, and I would suspect too, and this is just because he is a boomer himself. Well, no, he'd actually been Greatest Generation because he served in World War II. So
correct.
There was an argument that my father and I used to have because my dad served in the Navy, and he was proud to be a vet, and I'm proud of him. That's awesome. Anybody who serves, I'm not that person. It's a fucking volunteer job. Back then you were being drafted, but Syrian was drafted, right? But I mean, even then, people during World War II, people sound like in America, like Ted Williams, who is the greatest American baseball player ever, in my opinion. He stopped twice playing professional baseball at the height of his powers because he was a pilot, and he went and flew bomb missions during World War II and during Korea. He stopped twice because that was what you do. All of these people just did that, and that was just the thing you did. World War II is a very patriotic war, and I get it. I still personally think we got our asses in a little bit too late. But I think there was also this conversation that if you're criticizing war, you're anti-soldier. And this was a fight I used to have with my father. Because during the first Gulf War, 1971, I was graduating from high school, and then the next Gulf War, with the next Bush, with the after 9/11, and then we went and invaded Iraq for some reason. I was very against the invasion of Iraq. President Bush had a 98% popularity rate, approval rate. I was like, I'm sorry. If I were in charge of something that got fucked up that bad, I don't think everybody would pat me on the back and say good job. But because he did whatever. Then we invaded Iraq, I was against that. And my cousin, who is in the National Guard, okay, so in America, we have a thing called the National Guard. I don't know if you guys have it. It's a thing that people do. They go and they train a couple of times or once a month, and then 2 weeks a year. And they're literally there to guard the nation. So if there's a hurricane, you call the National Guard afterwards. They're there to help. If there's a riot, you can call the National Guard. That's what you do. So my cousin, who signed up for being the National Guard to guard Michigan in case of emergency, was sent to Iraq for a year. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't think he should go. He didn't sign up for that. And my dad was like, you got to be proud of him. I'm like, I'm proud of him. I just am pissed that he's going. Like, I can be pro-soldier and still be against this war. I think the invasion of Iraq was a mistake. I'll always say that. I'll say it forever and ever. Amen. And so, but that always pissed him off. So I think that could be, this is again, I'm not taking away anything that Heller had to say, but it could also be saying that he's saying it's not anti-war. It's everything you said. These people served honorably. He served honorably. My cousin served honorably. My dad served honorably. Andy, your dad served honorably. Serving honorably doesn't mean that World War II, you could argue, was a just war. Maybe it was the last just war, right? So you could look at that and go like, yeah, there were fucking Nazis.
Yeah.
Fascism's bad.
If there's anyone you can punch, it's a Nazi.
It's a Nazi. Yes. And so to me, you don't want to say I'm anti-World War II because nobody is, you don't want to be anti-World War II.
Because you don't want to be pro-Nazi.
Yeah.
Well,
so that could be.
There's only one way out of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're either a fascist or you're not. No, nobody wants to be a fascist.
Fascist versus fascist.
So some people do, and
you are right. Themselves. Yeah, you are right, Tony. You could I've got no issue with people joining the army, and I think we have something similar over. Is it the TAs over here, Andy?
Yeah, territorial army. Yeah,
territorial army. Yeah, so
not as a.
Yeah. It's similar, but it's not exactly the same. But it is that kind of, you go away on weekends and train and stuff. But yeah, I agree. You can agree and respect the people that go over there and put their lives on the line. They've been trained to do it. It's what they want to do. You can't take that away from them. But I don't agree with the reasons that we're in a war or why we're there. That I can disagree with. But you can still respect the people that have done their service and not done their time, but served. It's fine. It's like, again, you can't be you can be anti World War II, but it doesn't make you pro-Nazi. It's a very complex set of things going on. It affected the whole world, so it affected everything. So, and you can have your own opinions on that, and whatever Heller is saying, he's saying, and whether it's not anti-war, he may not consider it anti-war, but I read it as anti-war in a sense. I can see why people would see it as anti-war, but yeah, maybe Andy's position is like, no, it's a realistic take on war. And I think it's one of those things where, it's going to be whatever you want it to be, to a degree, with, however you interpret it. You personally are made up of ideas, and, your life has focused you in, and you have a vision of what something is and how you absorb that. And I think it's the same with any piece of work, religious text. If you want to read something into several religious texts, people will do. They'll go, there's been court cases where someone has used, the same argument against and the same argument for, and it was the same passage from the Bible. For God's sake, they're both going, well, this, but no, this is the same argument. Yeah, exactly. So it's a whole mess. It obviously
just like Netflix's adaptation of Cleopatra.
Oh, don't get started on that. That's another kettle of fish, Andy.
But that's almost religious levels, like you said there. It's almost religious levels, that, because the entire country of Egypt, the government has gone to war with Netflix about it. And it's wrong what you're doing. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it.
That's a documentary. It's not a drama. It's a documentary they've made.
Yeah, but I like seeing, because they've literally quoted a lot of the quotes in that documentary and gone, "This is absurd. You are lying about our history." So yeah, but it's that level. It's that level of religiousness, isn't it?
You know who produced it though?
I know exactly who produced it.
You
That's
know
why
who
we're not going to
produced
get
it.
into it. Yeah.
I
Get-
don't. We won't talk
Get
about it.
her name out of your mouth, Andy.
But anyway, yeah, it's thing. Yeah, there's always arguments for and against, isn't there, when it comes
Absolutely.
to adaptations and what the wider, deeper meanings are. Because it's not entirely like true history, is it? There's fiction in this. It's very different ballgame to say Cleopatra or anything like that. There are still adaptational moments in, and like I was saying before, like the dreamlike quality of it. I think that's what plays in, sort of, where you can draw up your own summations of how anti-war this is, or whether it is anti-war at all, or whether it's just being true to somebody's personal experiences in war. What somebody's gone through, how they were feeling at the time. The imagery they were seeing in just the mundanity walking down the street.
Well, when you think
weird
about
old lady breastfeeding a baby on the side, who's to say that didn't happen? Is those kind of weird sort of elements. David Lynch is very good at playing that, playing reality against itself to create something that looks completely absurd, but is fundamentally based in very real circumstances. And I think there's flecks of that in this film.
But even going back to what you were saying about when Cathcart and Milo are in the Jeep and they're oblivious, because Milo and Cathcart are not at risk, even though their shit is falling down around them. Like everybody else is freaking out because they're pilots and bombardiers and they're there to be weapons of war. And Cathcart is the one who keeps raising the missions, right? And he's the one that ultimately, to Danby, who's Martin Sheen, wants to kill him, and because he keeps raising the things every time they get close. That he raises it because it looks good for him, because he wants to be in Life magazine and he wants this. And so there is that commentary about, like, you get the person at the top, going back to your image of Patton, the giant rock hard penis in front of a American flag, getting all the war. But like Patton, he did his time in the trenches. I'm not saying he was never a grunt soldier, but like when you reach a certain level, you didn't have to do anything. And that's what Major Major's character is, right? Because Major in the book, he makes it to Major pretty quickly, and you see how quickly he makes it to Major in this. It's a little bit of a different story just because of his name, because his name is Major. And so then they're like, well, we can't have, Corporal Major. We can't have Captain Major. Sounds stupid. So it's gotta be, so it's like, this is it. We can't promote him because we can't have Colonel Major, so like the arbitrariness of who is in charge, of why those people are in charge, or what it means. Because in America, you have a college degree, you're automatically an officer when you join.
Really?
So like, so you outrank like a sergeant, like if I have 2 master's degrees. So if I join the Army tomorrow, the minimum I would have to be is a lieutenant. And you know who should be in charge? Not me. I shouldn't be in charge of anybody's anything. But because of that, so like, that is how it is. Like, some enlisted folks, which is sergeant and below, can move up to officer, but it's very rare. There's officer training school and stuff you can go through. So there's that, the absurdity of who's in charge and who's doing the work, and who are these, like the actual bodies. I think the naked scene is so important in the book and the film. That's in both, and him sitting in the tree naked and all of it, and then Milo trying to get him to eat chocolate cotton. All of that crazy shit is going on because I got to unload this cotton. They're going to have to learn to like it. And there's like, again, there's this comment, like, here's a naked guy.
Candy, why can't they have chocolate cotton?
Because it'll kill him. It'll kill him, Milo. And he's like, did you eat it? I couldn't swallow it. He's like, why do you think they can? And so, but there's like an actual body, like there's a naked man, there's a body in the ground, they're at a funeral while all this is happening, and then Milo's trying to get him to shove something else into it, because their bodies are all just tools for these other people to use. And so I think there's that other level of absurdity, like, we don't think about who these people are. We don't think this is the person we're putting in harm's way. And that's what's fascinating about this, unlike Patton, is that we're focusing on the people who are in harm's way in a real, like, we're not, there are some, some interesting dogfight scenes here, but for the most part, it's just like we're living inside their head. We're living inside their psychosis of every moment of being stressed out constantly. And so there's just that sense of the body. And even the cover, one of the film covers, the posters is just Yossarian's bare chest with his medal pinned on it, which is brilliant, which is such an, again, so because I think about that scene is so absurd of Milo and Cathcart driving around not paying attention, but they're not paying attention to anything, and they're like, there's a scene where Milo bombs them. Milo calls in a strike on his own thing because he made a good deal. Right?
With the Germans.
With the Germans.
We're doing their bombing run for them.
Because they paid a good price, because everybody gets a share.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a share.
And what's good for the syndicate is good for the war.
Right. That's what we're here for. Don't you understand that, Yossarian? And he does not understand that because he doesn't want to make any money. And that's the thing. Milo's already rich.
Yeah.
Milo's rich starting. He is a capitalist. And it's funny, John Voight plays him, which I was like, he just grew up to be Milo. Like, he didn't learn from this. Like, Martin Sheen was in this and was like, I'm going to learn. And he was in whatever the other one, Apocalypse Now. Martin Sheen's like in these movies, and he's like, I'm going to be an activist. I'm going to care about people as humans, and I'm going to be this guy. And John Voight's like, Milo's pretty awesome.
I can be Milo. I'm going to be Milo. I am Milo.
I am Milo. Right? I mean, it's crazy that you didn't learn you were this guy. Like, you understand you're the villain.
And again,
he knows.
And again, it's not, he becomes the villain, but it's not out of anything malevolent. It's just greed.
Yeah.
Like he wants to make the most money. He wants to have the most kind of the industry, and
that's all he's about, isn't he? Like how we
supply and demand.
We can get these eggs, and we can have more eggs, and charge them 5 cents, and they cost 2 cents, and he's like, well, fucking hell, it's only 3 cents, mate. But no, it's just, it doesn't matter. It's the accumulation. The more and more he accumulates, it just spirals, doesn't it, for him?
And then he becomes this Mussolini-like figure.
That imagery in the fucking car. And I literally went, oh yeah, he's just taken over the throne there, isn't he? Brilliant.
What did you make of the line? And this is straight from the book, so I'm not going to spoil because you're going to read the book, I know, but I don't want to say too much of the Milo stuff that you're missing and the major stuff that you're missing. But this was book movie straight up. So I was curious when they're talking to the old man in the whorehouse, and he's like, Italy's the best. Italy is the greatest nation on earth. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, before that somebody else was here and we were here, and then now you're here and we're here, and eventually you'll leave and we'll still be here. So ultimately we must be the greatest. Like, I thought that was such an amazing conversation about those who are the occupied.
Yes.
Yeah.
What an interesting point of view to them. They're like, well, somebody's just always going to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm pro-German and I'm pro-American. Whenever again, it's and then he's like, oh, you're an opportunist, and he's like, no, I'm just surviving.
Right, because he's totally different than Milo, because Milo's an opportunist, right? He's not. Yeah. He's just a survivalist. He wants to be alive tomorrow. So if I have to think, if I think the Germans are awesome, that's who I love today.
Yeah.
And I love
dark.
It is dark. Yeah, it is, Andy. It is. But it's funny, don't you, I laugh, reading it in the book, watching that the actor who pulled that scene off was great. It's funny in a not gut busty way, but nervous giggle funny. Like, oh God, that's so smart. It made me laugh, and also terrible.
But that's the old thing, isn't it? It's funny because it's true.
Yeah. How are they
even though it's fucking tragic, the fact that it's fucking tragic doesn't make it any less funny because it's true. And I think that's one of the best scenes in it. And the bit where Art Garfunkel eventually just can't say anything because he's like, shit, you got me there.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too. Art's playing Nately, who's 19. He's supposed to be 19, which is pretty funny to think that Art Garfunkel was ever 19. I don't think that was. I think he was just born looking like he did. But but it was he did have that sense of wonder on his face, though. I just think it's pretty fascinating. And again, so Andy, you're the this is true, in the stuff that you read when you're thinking about the war stuff, and how much of it focuses on what do you read that focuses on that, on the after effects of it, because that's obviously what we're supposed to see in Italy, is what's Italy left with when this is all over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've read a lot because obviously I used to live in Germany, so technically we were still an occupying force in Germany when I lived there, weirdly enough, after all that time. So it's just mostly it's from my own sort of experiences and my own sort of understanding that I draw from. And it always is quite I never thought like we were viewed in like a negative light, but it was almost a case of like, oh, you still here, kind of thing.
Go
like,
home.
when are you gonna go? And that's always what I sort of like look for in in what he was saying. It's just very poignant. It's almost like an unwitting sort of like acceptance, or this is happening, and you know what, we don't really care. It's almost sad in a way that they're accepting of the fact that they're going to be occupied, but eventually none of it will matter and nobody will care. Like I don't think the Americans hung around too long at all.
The war kept
Obviously,
going on the
yeah.
other front. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously the main focus for United Kingdom was Germany and maintaining occupation there for a time, just helping to rebuild, I think, more than anything. But that was the main focus. And obviously the attention shifted elsewhere, didn't it? And
Yeah.
After ending the war, it became Korea, then it became Vietnam, and Italy just kind of worked itself out, weirdly enough.
And
I don't
now
really know
they've
too much.
hired an extremist as their prime minister. So that's a whole thing too.
Swings and roundabouts.
Swings and roundabouts. It's poignant though that you guys are doing it. Like I do think though that I guess I didn't ask the question because you guys have just talked about it and I've never been part of the conversation since I'm here. What is it? I understand the fascination because I'm always reading, history. I think history is important. I just read a children's book, actually. It was called Anna and the Swallow Man. And it was about a girl whose dad they were Aryan, but because they were intellectuals, they got run out of town. Like the dad was going to go to prison for being too smart during World War II. So it wasn't like he was he wasn't a Jew. He wasn't a this, he wasn't that. He was just smart. So being smart was a problem. So I'm always fascinated to think about like the persecution and, the level of evil that the Nazis brought from there. But what was the impetus for you, Dan, to want to do, like, I know you said it's been years in the making. So, and you led off by saying it's serious. And I know we've had a pretty serious conversation for us. We've said fuck a lot and joked around, but
yeah, sure.
But at the same time, like, what was your rationale for saying this was important to do and it's worth continuing to discuss? Is it just because people are forgetting? Is because they read Hannah Arendt's book as a playbook? Like John Voight thought playing Milo Minderbinder was how to be? Like, what's your reason for wanting to continue to keep it in the consciousness?
I think it's always been a fascination for me. I know for Andy, it's been a fascination. My grandfather was in the Navy, but he also collected militaria. So he had outfit, the uniforms. He was known as the Bayonet King because he has so many bayonets. You name it, he had documents, books. It fascinated him. He grew up, I think, in Manchester mostly. He told me once about not long after he died, he told me about a story where his father was a fireman and they went to one of the roofs where they lived and they saw like Manchester burn during the Blitz. Like they were just burning. And, I love my granddad very much. And he had certain views in his older life that I don't agree with. But I still loved him for who he was and what he was. Andy even met him at one point when we were doing a play. I borrowed some kind of helmets and some other stuff for a show. I think it was for our showcase, I think at uni. So Andy drove us and I managed to pick up the costuming or the helmets or the uniforms, whatever we took something. I can't remember what it was exactly, but yes, and again, I recently told this on Alison's podcast.
Right, you did, yeah.
Video. I have an Italian great grandfather who was unfortunately deported because he was Italian, and because he was deported, this is Winston Churchill's idea. So he's not squeaky clean either. I know we hold him up in this heroic, but nobody's really that squeaky clean. And he was then on the boat. It was the Arendora Star, I believe it was called. It came out of Scotland, Edinburgh, Glasgow, wherever the shore is. And it was then bombed by a Nazi U-boat, and he died, and all the people on board died. So and I think and he died because he was different, and it was a decision out of fear that Winston Churchill made. And he regretted it. At the end of the war, he went, yeah, I made that out of fear and I shouldn't have done that. And it was a mistake. Am I like, oh, yeah, Winston Churchill's the great, or, but again, it's wartime, so you can't. I don't think you can judge too harshly some of the decisions that were made. But I do feel like socially we may be forgetting certain things. Like we've got to remember as well. Like I'm left leaning. I'm absolutely a left leaning in my politics. But you have to remember as well that we can take left leaning politics can go that too far. Like Hitler was in a socialist group. That's how it began. And I think, either way, you can go so far right, you become left. You can go so far left, you become right. I think mostly because Andy has a fascination for it, and I wanted to do something that kind of dug into that fascination, my own fascination. But also, I think there is a lot of kind of rising of these, like you said, Italy has a far right. There's a lot
my
of
governor.
There you go, your governor. And, in the UK, there's a lot of kind of far-right groups as well. We've had previous far-right groups, get quite far up. So it is, I think, again, we are always doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. So I think bringing this all up and looking at it in this sense, it's a podcast. There's a sense of fun to it. It is fictional, but it is based on fact, and there's going to be some very serious discussions, but we can still have a little bit of fun as well. I think because of that, it's something that me and Andy wanted to look at specifically, and Andy was obviously game because it's something he's fascinated by historically and contextually. And I think that's why we wanted to cover that, the whole World War II month. In fact, I suggested it. I put it up for I think it was a Patreon or a Twitter feed. And people voted and they chose World War II month. So I imagine the fascination for that doesn't just stop with me and Andy. It continues with other people. So that's why we kind of decided, I think this is the one we do together. Because normally I just do it and have kind of several guests on. But I think because of Andy's depth of knowledge and the kind of stuff he knows and is into, it's far beyond anything I know. As much research as I do, I'll never have the kind of knowledge that Andy has about this subject.
Well, it's funny too because you lived there, right, Andy, for years.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that informs you. And I know I'm going to compare you to one of my favorite musicians of all time, who unfortunately died of a heroin overdose. So please don't do that. Although Spider-Man made the illusion that you're going to not make it for 2 more years, and only 2 more years, Nat's going to have to be getting weird boxes. But Didi Ramon was from Germany, and so that informed his whole life. Like born there, lived there, grew up speaking German, moved to Queens, obviously was not a fascist, but like grew up in that thing. And so like they're a lot of their songs make these really dark, like early Ramones songs, the stuff that Didi wrote. Didi wrote most of their songs, but like he wrote these songs about like not wanting to be part of this, but like making the comments about Hitler and Nazism and and all this, Blitzkrieg Bop. You can't get more, you can't get more explicit about what that song is. So it's just interesting that living in that environment. So he was living like post World War II. He was there, like you're living. But it's interesting what you said. You're living. It's not post World War II, but you're like, are you guys still fucking here? Isn't that over now? So like post World War II kind of never ended, but yet somehow we're forgetting what it meant. Now it's just like whatever, Nazis. That's not a thing. There's fucking Nazis everywhere.
Yeah.
There's Nazis everywhere. There's Nazis everywhere. There's Nazis in my state. Not that long ago in Jacksonville, Florida, they put a big fucking swastika on the side. They projected it on the side of a building. Jesus Christ. So I was just, so how long you were there for a while, and then that just must be like in you all the time, right? To be like, fuck.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I moved over there when I was very young, with my stepfather once he married my mother. And then obviously I moved around from place to place. So it just sort of like informed my fascination of, wanting to understand more about why I was living there as opposed to, Cyprus or Gibraltar or somewhere like that. Obviously there were mutual beneficent, reasons for military bases still being in operation there and everything. A lot of them, in fact, all of them are closed now. They're all shut down. Everywhere that I used to live has either been reclaimed by nature, weirdly enough, or has been gifted as part of like a low income housing scheme in Germany. So it's it was always just fascinating for me to try and understand, what the wider context of how, how vast and how varied World War II was. It wasn't just a case of battlefields and battles in the air. It was the battle for the soul as well, which is why the breadth of stories that you get from books and movies, television shows. That's why I was so keen to do this, because there's a varying breadth of stories that come across in all mediums. It's not just a case of like a cinematic universe. It's real, raw storytelling. Some of it's absolute trash and ludicrous and completely fictionalized, and then some of it, some of the stuff is deeply affecting. And I've talked to Dan a lot about Schindler's List. I think Schindler's List was probably at the height of when I was just starting to really sort of understand, what had happened when I watched that film, and that's stuck with me ever since. And that sort of formed my appreciation, for why my father was there, or why a presence was maintained for so long. And it wasn't simply just to like curb any sort of uprisings or anything like that. It was literally just to sort of usher in a new way of thinking and a wider focus on of nations joining together and being unified in a mutually cooperative way. Obviously, some people didn't see that when we were living there. We used to have skirmishes with young kids. Just weird stuff, really. It is very bizarre to try and look back and think on it. A lot of it is a blur, because I did move around quite a lot. I moved around pretty much every 12, 18 months. So a lot of it does just become a blur, a blur of trying to fit back in, a blur of trying to, adjust to a new school, a new house. Oh, the PlayStation 1's out. Cool, great. Oh, we're moving again. That kind of stuff. It was
Right.
weird. It's so weird. A lot of it is just a blur. And
would you say absurd?
Yeah, absurd. Yeah, and again, that sort of factors in a lot of, informed me a lot about with war movies and the chaos that people went through. The film We Were Soldiers, as rubbish it is, in places with Mel Gibson, there is a really affecting bit in it where you see people moving into houses on a military base, to set up shop, to live there while they're on this deployment. And I used to go through that, just seeing that, unpacking the car, the wagons coming to drop all your stuff off. You're going to live here for what, 12, 18 months, then you'll do the same thing again. You'll pack up and move on. There was no fixed solid ground. So there are things that do factor in and, resonate with me with all war movies, and with this especially. It's the chaos and the madness that people go through. And, from outside perspective looking in, on sort of like, not just my family, but other families at the time, there was a lot going on that people were dealing with, even in the boring, mundane, not even in the conflict sort of times, in between sort of like Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq, whatever. People were struggling then and going through some really dark stuff. And there's this kind of film, Catch-22, where you see those flecks of people just either completely lost in the reasons why they're there, or completely bored. That factors in quite a lot.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that's important. I appreciate you saying that. And I assumed, you don't know. And I think everybody's experience matters. And like, you think about like Nately's whore's kid sister. They just call her kid sister in this. In the book, she's Nately's whore's kid sister. That's her name every time. He chose to type that out on a typewriter every time. Nately's whore's kid sister. But like she's fucked.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, her life, her sister's the one who stabs Usarian, at the beginning. And so it's like, now
is it?
Yeah, that was her. She's dressed up as the soldier because she.
I didn't notice that.
She's mad at him because he's the one who told her Nately was dead. So the Nately's whore is the one who stabs him at the beginning.
Do you see her? Do you see her?
He says it. He says it quickly to in the hospital. You never see it.
I missed because I quite like that I didn't know who that was.
Oh, sorry.
So no, it's not a bad thing. But I kind of was like that could be any of them. It could be anybody in the film. It could be any of the characters. It could be the war itself killing him. It could be the bureaucracy, the absurdity, the insanity. What's that line in Platoon? Hell is the impossibility of reason, or something like that. I think Charlie Sheen quotes something else or something like that.
God, now you're making me think.
Yeah.
It's something like that, I think.
Yeah, it's like hell is the impossibility of reason is hell or something. He's quoting something, but I'm not sure what he's quoting. I'd have to watch it again, but I quite like that I didn't know in a sense, but it doesn't matter that I know. But what you were saying is, of course, they're like, I didn't expect them to react like that because we perceive them as she's a whore, she's a prostitute, she is just looking for a good thing or someone to take her to America or something like that. But when she finds out that Nately is dead, her reaction is violent and upset, and both of because they're like, that's our hope gone, that's it. He was the nicest man we've ever met, and we genuinely cared for him. Yeah, I sleep with other men for money, but he's who I loved. And I was shocked by that reaction, but then I was also like, no, that is the right reaction.
Yeah.
And
that's the only niggle I have with this entire movie.
Go on.
Was when Yossarian he says, "Get off of me, you crazy bitch."
Yeah.
I don't love that line, and it almost felt ADR, like you don't see his mouth. I almost feel like this was almost a perfect movie. Like, again, I haven't watched this in years. It's almost perfect. And that one line, it's kind of like, you've missed it. Did you watch the rest of this movie? Because Yossarian wouldn't say that to her. He might say that to somebody else, but he wouldn't say that to her, and especially in that moment. So I didn't, and I forgot, obviously, it'd been years since
it's not got the best kind of, it's not the most feminist movie you'll ever see. Like
not at all.
The view of women and the way they're presented.
There's a lot of groping.
Yeah, a lot of groping, a lot of nudity, a lot of
moaning.
A lot of moaning, a lot of
the next man who moans is going to regret it.
Oh my God.
And her breasts being like tennis balls.
Who is this man? Take him outside and shoot him.
Yeah, take him out and shoot him. You can't do that, Dad.
But yeah, and like...
Don't call me Dad.
Stop calling me Dad. Brilliant, just like all of that. But again, like it's such a wonderful kind of journey because it goes from this kind of like him having a panic attack in the bomber because he doesn't have a parachute, and he's like, Charles Grodin's like, what's happening over here? Oh yeah, we gave away all the parachutes, it's fine. Oh, where are we going? Oh, I'm not sure. I think we're here. Do you want a bomb? No, yeah. And like you're really entertained by that whole thing going on and that whole scenario, and just going,
there's a fire. It's just in with the pipe.
Yeah,
it's a fire. I love all of that, but it does it really it's one of those comedies where you don't kind of, again, it's kind of the absurdity of war, and obviously I don't think I expected it to be quite as absurd or as weird as it was, and as kind of disjointed in a good way, not like it's disjointed in a bad way. It's like it's like a Tarantino movie. It's all the parts are moving, but they're all in the wrong order, or technically the non-linear order anyway. But I think when it really hits home for you is when that probably that last kind of 15-20 minutes, I think, when it's just him walking around these barren, dark streets, and he's looking for some positivity. You can feel it in him. He's looking for, where's the light, where's the salvation, where is the justice? And then the one moment he gets where he goes, right, now I can have some justice. I can make sense of the world. I can make sense of this insane, bizarre situation I've been in for all these missions. I've caught somebody who's murdered someone, thrown a woman out of a window. She, we see her very graphically, see her head busted open on the pavement. Everyone's looking. The police are on their way to arrest this guy. Turns out it's Charles Grodin's character, who is again very affable. He's like, oh, I don't go with young girls. I don't do this. Turns out he's raped the girl and murdered her and thrown her out the window. And he goes, what have you done? Like, why have you done this? Like, they're gonna arrest you. They're gonna come and arrest you, and you're gonna be sent away. You're a murderer. He's like, well, it's war. Who's gonna miss one Italian girl? Like, why does it matter? It's this whole thing's insane. Why would this? I had to kill her because I raped her. And he's like, why didn't you pay her? Why didn't you get a prostitute? He's like, oh, I've never paid for it in my life. I wouldn't dare. And then you're like, and then Yossarian's like, just again, more insanity. I love that line with Martin Sheen where he goes to kill the general. They're like, you're insane. Stop trying to kill him. And he's like, it's the most sane thing I've ever decided on. And it is. in the most bizarre way, it is the most sane decision anyone's made in the film to fucking kill this guy who keeps, making the missions go higher and higher and higher and higher until he can go home. So and then the military police come in, and you go, right, okay, and you think, oh, maybe Yossarian's going to be blamed because he's in the room, but in fact, they arrest Yossarian for being AWOL.
They don't give a shit about anything else.
Yeah,
and that just, for me, that just hits the nail on the head of this whole, the whole story, the whole film, the whole idea. It's absurd. Like, again, a rapist murderer gets a slap on the wrist
because he's Arfi. Because Grodin is good cat, like in your mind, because he's a horrible monster. But the way Grodin plays it, because Grodin plays that guy, he's like, Meh. He's like Thurston Howell III. Of course, he's a rich guy, so of course he's going to get off. He's a rich white. He is embodiment of rich male white privilege, and it comes through, and it's horrific. And so it is great casting. And then what I appreciate in the book and what I appreciate about the film is you don't see it. It's discussed, but you don't see any of it. And I just can't believe Clooney didn't show the restraint in his TV movie to follow the leader, man. I know you're trying to do something different by making it whatever, but like putting some of the missing characters in, but it's like, that was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It didn't need to be there. I was shocked seeing it. It was because, again, I think talking about it and focusing on what you just said, Dan, Yossarian's reaction and Arfi's reaction is the story. This poor girl is a victim, and that's enough to just have her lying there lifeless in the shot. You're like horrified, but there's no reason to film that. I just was really, I just don't know what Clooney was doing. I just think it was a big mistake. That whole thing was a mistake. Ugh.
Just like Batman and Robin.
Hey now, Bat Nichols.
You gotta love it and hate it all at the same time.
Yeah, killed the dinosaurs.
I think we're slowly coming to an end. I do want to mention a couple of things. You brought up music earlier, Tony. I wanted to bring up that Paul Simon was in fact supposed to be in this film, but he got with Art Garfunkel.
Wow,
you were going to have Simon and Garfunkel. However, his part got cut and didn't end up in the film. And then when they were making their next album, I believe, Garfunkel was asked for reshoots, and there was a delay on the album, so Paul Simon was not happy. And he actually included you can read it on the IMDb page, but he included some lyrics referring to Art Garfunkel going and filming the reshoots instead of recording the album. So he wrote a little dig at him, a little in one of the songs. So
why, petty little man, you are Paul Simon. Calm down.
Here's another thing as well. What do you think to the music in this film?
The score or the music?
Just either or.
I have to say it didn't, because the sound design was so overwhelming. I'll have to admit, I don't think the score sat with me. Is there not a score?
So there is no original music in this film.
Really? Okay.
No original music. So it's all, again, like you said, amazing sound design, or again, it's reused. It's, classical music or something else. But yeah, it does not have a score. And I think the fact that we don't notice that just goes to show how good a job they do. Like when you feel things are missing.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's fucking, when you watch Dracula 1931, you go, oh, there's no music, because they had it live in the cinema. They used to play the music live in the
right.
Yeah.
That's why there's no sound there. So that makes sense. And you kind of, even though that's why you're thinking, oh, it needs to really move on, or it's a bit slow, or it's barely even like an hour and a half anyway. But you'll notice that because it's supposed to be there. But with this, again, it's like any good, if you're doing a good enough job with your filmmaking, it's not noticed. Like that's the stuff you don't want to be noticed, like the bad CG or something like that. The fact that we don't notice, but it also adds to that level of that, what Andy was saying, that kind of, it's almost like purgatory. It's this heightened reality, or this unreality that it's trying to present, this bizarre fairy tale.
I think it would have undercut a lot of the a lot of the impact, especially from the satire. If it's undercurrented by, quirky little musical numbers or something like that, I think it would have done it a bit of a disservice.
Like a laugh track or something.
Yes, obviously not quite as bang on as that, but I don't know. It's hard to sort of.
Well, I think
words, but just like like a comedy film has some kind of particular. It sounds a particular way, doesn't it, in terms of the musical track, whatever they play. Sure. Anything like that would have just done it a disservice. It would have taken away from the impact of what we get later on. I think it does serve it better, but it is just. At points in the film, we are just treated to the sound of the engines, and then just the absolute horror of it being completely quiet at the end when he's walking those desolate streets. He's literally just walking through the caverns of hell, isn't he?
It really is. I think that's well said. Well, it's almost like what you were saying there, Andy, though. Like you mentioned MASH came out this year. And the difference between MASH the movie and MASH the TV show is like night and fucking day.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because MASH the movie is dark and gritty and bloody and funny in all the ways and really offensive in other ways. The TV show is totally like, saccharine and whatever. So I think and that had a laugh track. You're in a tent. Why are people laughing? So I think, that's it's funny that you mentioned that. Because the sound design, and that's the one that we talked about, the sound design, that's pretty impressive to pull it off without any music. That's well done.
Wonderful. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say that we haven't already mentioned? Any moments, character, stuff about the film? I don't know, behind the scenes stuff about the novel. Tony, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I would just say it's worth a read. This movie is very good. It's one of the best adaptations, and it is not a faithful adaptation. There's a lot of things cut, but it is an excellent. This is how you do an adaptation. You're like, what is the inspiration? What am I trying to get across? Obviously, I can't do it. He wrote 500 pages. I've got 2 hours and 2 minutes. What am I going to do? This is really well done. This is because Buck Henry is a banger of a writer, original writer, but to do an adaptation like this is a skill. He didn't win anything for this. He should have. I just think it's really technically beautiful. It's harsh. It makes you laugh. I think they're obviously it's a love letter to the book, but it does stand on its own. If you've never read the book, I think you're okay to just watch this. But
absolutely. Like me and Andy both very much enjoyed this film, and neither of us have read the book.
Yeah, I don't think you have to.
Yeah, exactly. So it stands.
Not like that first interview with the vampire movie that, like, if you didn't read the book, you don't know what the fuck is going on in the movie. It's not like that. Like you don't know what's going on in this movie, but it's intentional. Like when you get to the end, you're rewarded. When you get to the end of that, you're like, well, if I didn't read that book, I'm missing 90% of this story.
Yeah. I will say this about the writing as well. Joseph Heller, having watched the film and approved of the film, he actually thought there was some improvements in the writing. So he said he approved. He was like, this is all good. Actually, I kind of wish I had this or I'd done this like you have, like you've adapted this. So he was a big fan. So if you get the writer of the original book saying that, you're like, you did it better than me, then you've probably done something pretty good. Andy, anything from you?
I think I'll just sort of say I think this film has sort of unfairly been forgotten about, really. And it, like I said, because obviously this is the first time I've watched it, there's never really been that much of a fanfare about it. But watching it, it's very clear that this film paved the way for some inspiration for a lot of later war movies, especially like the Vietnam era war movies. Just because, like, even just looking at the opening sort of credits, the shot with the sun and everything, that sunrise, the use of the aircraft as being, very intense when they're taking off. Obviously, that factors in to a lot of, the helicopter scenes that we see in later films, Apocalypse Now, all that, utilizing the sound of aircraft to really pinpoint specific, emotions or responses from people. And then obviously the whole idea that war is hell and it's completely bonkers and insane and nobody knows what's going on. Everyone's just trundling to get through. I think a lot of that does factor into much later films that come along down the line, and even some, in some of the lighthearted comedy moments, I say comedy moments, but the lighthearted moments you get in those films come from the satire in this. I think, it's with this film you're able to present across the madness of war, but still have those moments where there is this really dark black comedy that is hilarious, and it doesn't feel out of place to laugh. And then when you think about it, you're thinking, well, why am I laughing? What are these people going through? And you get that in a lot of films that follow on. So there is something, I think, if you are a fan of war movies, or if you're a fan of the era, or I think it is as a film that you really should watch. You should watch and should appreciate the performances, appreciate what it's trying to tell you, and obviously the subject matter. It's a really good film. I'm glad we covered it, to be quite honest. And
me too. I
wish I'd seen it sooner.
This was one I think I changed this one because initially I was like, I've got to have a bit of comedy in here, or sort of lighten something up a little bit. Christ, and then I was like, oh, that's not this. So initially I was like, okay. But then, I was more read into it. Again, I didn't spoil it for myself or anything, but I got, and in a sense, I don't think you can kind of spoil this or the novel in a sense because of the way it's put together,
the way it plays out.
But yeah, I think we were going to do like a Dirty Dozen type thing initially, and then I'm very glad I changed it to something like this. So I am very glad of my own decision, I guess.
Of course you are.
I'm glad of what I did.
I'm glad you didn't pick Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is trash.
Maybe I should have done We Were Soldiers or whichever crappy.
I would not. That's Vietnam now.
Oh, is it? Okay. No. Well, Wind Talkers then, or whatever the fuck.
Oh God, no. That's bad.
Don't worry. Well, he's not. Luckily, Andy isn't cursing me. Luckily, this is a rare opportunity where Andy isn't cursing me because I picked this film. So I'm glad I picked it as well.
But you are coming back for the dolphin, Andy. You've already admitted
Day of the dolphin. Go do the day. I find out how that dolphin tries to kill the president of the United States.
I just want to see that.
I do too. I kind of gonna go find it now.
It's like Air Force One of the Sea.
It's from the director of this film, Andy. So it must be good.
And The Graduate.
The Graduate. And who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?
One of the greatest movies ever made. And then
the Day of the Dolphin. It will be done. It will be done. But speaking of amazing authors, we have one on the show. It's Tony Farina.
Where?
You sir, have done your very own adaptation of previous work. So please tell us about this, as it is available now and will be in the show notes to buy physically and digitally.
It's true. Yeah. So thank you for that. Thanks for this. Thank you for this, Andy. It was good to see you. I don't know when you said it was like seeing Darth Maul. I don't know who was who, but I'll take that either way.
I know it. I know exactly.
I'm happy we'll figure that out. Qui-Gon, or I'm here for it.
It was a true duel of fates today.
There's three of us, so we have to decide.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
I'll be the one who dies.
It'll be
two of them.
Anyway, so I appreciate this. It was great. It was good to finally be face to face with you, with Andy, and thanks for having me back on, Dan. So yes, my book is out. It's called Welcome to Mansfield. It is a modern day retelling of Jane Austen's misunderstood masterpiece, Mansfield Park. It's another one of those plotting books that people are like, man, that book is long. I know. But I love it. I did a character sketch of Fanny Price in college, getting one of my master's degrees, and I just fell in love with the book again. I've always liked it. So anyway, I wrote a series. I'm doing a whole series of putting all of Jane Austen's books in a shared universe, and this is the first one. Start with the one people hate, right? That's the way to hook them in. Start with the one that nobody likes.
Hey, the MCU started with Iron Man, and he was a B-lister.
That's fact. And Fanny Price, I call her Junior because Fanny means something different now. And but she is. It's just a fun book. It's classified as YA, but it's sort of like new adult because it takes place at a American college, which you guys would say uni. And so it is out now. I had a blast writing it. I'm almost done with the second book.
These days you gotta have a sequel.
You do. I've got 6 coming, so I've got to write 5 more. I'm almost done with the second one, so it's pretty cool. I've sold the whole series. So yes, it's been a joy. And Dan, Spider Dan, will be one of my first readers he's been helping me out with the second book. The second book actually takes place in England, so I need to I send random messages to him and Paul and Rhea and Jack and Mike, and I'm like, is this a thing? And I was like, I asked Paul the other day.
Do we say
like,
sidewalk or pavement? What do we say?
Right. I'm like, what do you say? And I was like, do you guys have the chicken dance over there? I asked Paul and he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I just needed to know. He's like, okay.
I mean, dancing like a chicken in general or a specific?
Oh, yeah. We have that, don't we?
So anyway, so it because that will show up. Surprise for the second part. But anyway, yes, it's called Welcome to Mansfield. It's out now. And here's my big push, because this is coming out in July. So everybody will hear this in July. Here's the thing you could do for me. If you're like, I don't want to buy it. I want to try it before I buy. Here's the thing I would please go to your local library or go to your digital library app and request it. And then check it out from there. And then if you like it, great, get a copy. If you're like, oh, I'd like to read that again, and buy a copy. But the more libraries that get this, the more hands it gets in. And that's important to me. I'm married to a librarian. I'm an English teacher. I understand. My publisher is a mid-sized publisher, so the book is a little pricey. The digital book is really very cost effective. You can get that for a few pounds. But if you're looking to get a physical copy and you're unsure, you want to try before you buy, request your library to buy a copy and then get it that way, and then tell somebody like, hey, it's at the library, you should check it out. So that would be cool. The dream is to be in every library in the world. So thank you for letting me have my platform, and thank you for letting me be here, my friend.
My pleasure. And where can people find you on social medias?
Oh, yeah. So I'm at arfarina.com is my website. That's the best thing. Just go there and it links to Instagram and Facebook and the places that my wife makes me look good online.
She does. She does
it all. Everything looks great because she does it all.
She does. But not the writing. That's all you.
No, the writing is me. She's the first reader, but she does all the social media stuff for me. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, Andy, what about yourself? Where can all of the people watch all of your things?
Well, you can find me at Angry Andy Reviews over on YouTube. I'm not a good writer. I just waffle aimlessly and endlessly, sometimes with great rage and furious anger.
Those are my favorite ones. The best ones are the one that you did, the superhero movie with Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer that should have been good but sucked.
Oh, God,
that was maybe my favorite of all your reviews, because you were like super offended that Octavia was in that movie. You're like, what is?
No, I was offended. I was offended on her behalf.
On behalf, because they're friends, and you get like why she agreed to do it, and you're like, you're one of the greatest living working actors right now. How dare you be in this movie? Like, it was just so good. Like you were defending her honor, and I appreciated that because I felt the same way. That was my favorite of the ones the last few years, just because you were. As a former actor yourself, you were like, what the fuck, man? Don't shit on her.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It was painful. God bless her.
I still watch the movie though, anyway.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. Don't blame you. It kind of had to be seen to be believed. But God, yeah. It's been a while since I've kind of gone off the rails in that regard. I think Pinocchio was the last one where I just kind of lost it completely. I haven't brought myself to watch Peter Pan and Wendy yet. So
I watched it. We can talk about that off air another time, but I did watch it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Obviously, there are things coming out. There's a load of stuff coming out, isn't there? Can't get to watch it all. Don't really want to watch it all, but whenever I do, the review will come and it will be on there.
You've got to do Little Mermaid.
Yeah, it depends whether Natalie wants to watch. I think we'll probably wait till that's on Disney Plus, to be fair, and then check it out there. But,
fair enough. I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah,
I wouldn't blame you.
It'll be on there at some point, and then obviously my mainstay is Twitter at Andy_review, and that's where I am. Where all my procrastinations and countless retweets of Nicolas Cage laughing at absurd stuff, usually falls in. So yeah, there you go.
Excellent. Well, thank you, guys. I genuinely think this has been one of the best podcasts I've done. I think we have explored this and talked about it till death. But no, I genuinely have really just enjoyed hearing you two go to town and talk about this film and this novel as well. And everything we've discussed today, I think, has been brilliant. So I think this is a very, very special podcast for me, and I hope for all the other listeners as well, for the rest of the Prattalion. Speaking of those lovely people, you can find me at www.spiderdanandthesecretboars.com. Review, like, share, comment, subscribe, etc. And don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle when you interact with us please subscribe to the Pop Culture Collective newsletter, where you can find out what myself, Comics in Motion, and all the other related podcasts are up to week by week. I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon. I wonder who they are. Could be Angry Andy, Tony Farina, I Am Jack's Musing, Simon Cotton, Paul Meller, Max Byrne, Mike Burton, Tonya Todd, and Math. So quite a few now. We're building up a real crew of spider people, a spider-verse, if you will. And thank you for your continuing donations. It is very much appreciated, especially you two. And it helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. We will be back next week with another podcast on a World War II film and or comic. I'm not sure what it's going to be, quite frankly, because we're still working that out. But it will be something. You will get something. So whoever it is and whoever it's with, Andy will be there and I will be there 100%. So join us again for the second installment of World War II month. Goodbye, bye.
Bye. Bye.